Welcome. This is a quick reminder about painting different values. So right off the bat, if you start with your regular color, you're gonna have just the normal version of that hue. To make a tint, one of the first things we talked about, you will be adding white to lighten your color. But the blue, or whatever color you have, is a little bit darker, so it's more powerful. It's a little bit bossier, I like to say. So it makes more sense to add the blue into the white. If you were to add the white to the blue, it would be really hard to convince the blue to make a change. So instead, take a little bit of blue and mix it in with the white. And just a little bit will start to create a difference. That's gonna be the lightest tint that I have. So I'll paint that a little bit up here. And every time that I want to darken that a little bit, I'll just add a little bit more blue into the white. And each time I do it, it should get a little darker. If you're like, it didn't really quite change, it just means you need to add a little bit more blue. Nice and smooth. You can keep adding a little bit of blue at a time until you get the color that you want. You can always add more, but you can never take it away once you put it in, so be careful. There we go, that's a little bit more blue. I'll take a little bit more and mix it in. A little bit more and mix it in. Each time you add more blue into your white, it'll get a little bit closer to that true color that you started out with. So you can see that I have a value gradient. I have the lightest tint all the way up to the blue. Now, when you start doing your shades, things are gonna work a little bit differently because the black is darker than the blue, so the black's a little bit bossier. That means instead of adding blue into black, same thing like with the white, into the blue didn't make a change. The blue into the black doesn't really make a change either. So instead, I'll take a little tiny bit of black. The black is really powerful. So just a little bit of black and add it in with the blue. And just like when we go the other direction, you can always add more, but you can never add less. So you should add little by little. And each time we put a little bit more black into the blue, our value will get a little bit darker. Until at the end, you really have basically a black. Put some black in there, you can. So now I have a full value gradient. It goes all the way from the lightest tint to the blue and then into the darkest shade. So when you're creating your geode, you're going around, as you do this, around the edges of your rock. So you might have a tint, and then another tint. It's up to you whether you go lightest to darkest or darkest to lightest. It's up to you how you do that. But I'm gonna be checking to make sure that you have a few different tints and a few different shades in your artwork when you're all done. And if you want to mix them up, you can do that. They don't have to go in order if you don't want. Your whole geode's going to get filled in with color. You might decide to add in a little bit of a darker shade somewhere else, or a little bit of a lighter tint somewhere else. Once the paint is dry, you can paint right over it. The other thing I wanted to remind you is if you're painting and your geode, maybe you have a couple different values in there, but there are some white spaces showing in between. You have some leftover white spaces. Today is a good day to fill those in and make it look nice and neat. So remember, today you're filling in your geode. You're filling the whole thing with color, and you need to have a couple different tints and a couple different shades.